Good morning. Today we continue to analyze research and different pools which connect with Ukraine, and we try together with SIC Group and Institute for Democracy and Development understand deep motivations of Ukrainians, understand Ukrainian society, and for sure understand different trends in Ukrainian society. It will be helpful for all people who do research about Ukraine. It will be helpful for think tanks and universities who also explore this theme. So today we will analyze this research. So I will give to you main point from research because it's obviously a report on Ukrainian, and will give also my opinion about that. I'm Kateryna Odarchenko. I'm political strategist and political manager, now work with Institute for Democracy and Development on these issues. So as you can see, this research is research for more than 2,000 people, and it was organized in 31 countries of Europe, where Ukrainian refugees now located. So it was computer assisted web interviewing, and here you also see that it was called this summer in June, and also author of this research. This report I download on agency rating on their website, so feel free also to go to their website and see basic research. Unfortunately, it's only on Ukrainian now. We will analyze the main important term which I think is important, and then I will provide my humble opinion about that. First of all, we see from what region Ukrainian refugees originally came. So on the start of war, as you can see, mostly people who came to European countries. It was people from Western Ukraine and Southern Ukraine. So obviously it can connect that from Western Ukraine. It's easier to go to Europe because it's closer to Ukraine. Here it's Western Ukraine. And from Southern Ukraine, it's obviously because there is the next region to Crimea. I'm originally also from Southern Ukraine, from Kherson, and it was really very dangerous to live there under occupation. So it was several years ago. And if we see a situation for now, we see that almost 50% of all refugees is people also from Southern Ukraine, because it's active and active war there. So the same people who came like half a year ago, and so on and so forth. So also, on the second point of people who came to Europe several months ago, it's people from Eastern Ukraine, where also active war now going. So also we can analyze where Ukrainians go in Europe, and they mostly go to Eastern Europe. Because it's closer, and because many people before work in Eastern Europe, I mean on seasonal jobs, even before war, and also some people, only around 20%, go to Western Europe. Now we in the future we will see what professions usually go. So it's we discussed like several years ago, and if we talk about like new situation, it's more than 50% also go to Eastern Europe. Also we see information how long people stay in Europe, and you see that totally majority It's people who leave Ukraine not when war started, but a little later. So more than 60% people more than 1 year in Europe. So if we moving forward, we also can understand, is it comfortable for Ukrainians being in Europe? One more time, we must understand that many Ukrainians worked before in Europe. So for 51%, it's more than like it's around comfortable, and 33% think that it's comfortable for them being in Europe. So only for 10 and only 13% not comfortable in Europe. So we also will analyze what does it mean. So if we see also, I'm sorry, if we see also like what conditions of people, is it like comfortable or not comfortable, we also can analyze level of income of people who go. So as we can see, it's almost the same level of comfortability for all groups. And one more time, like good income in Ukraine and good income in Europe, it's completely different good income. So good income in Ukraine, it was like from $500 a month to 1,000. 1,000, it's like was perfect income a month in Ukraine. So obviously, this level of income in Europe or even in the United States, it's not good income. So it's also very important to understand this difference. So also it's some information if Ukrainian like travel to Europe. So pretty big number travel, so around 50%. So it means that people want to see how people in Europe live, and my guess as political manager that people also try to understand it's their environment for living. Before, in my lecture for Marshall's University, we also analyze that more than 40% of people ready to come back to Ukraine only when Russia fully capitulates. So it's very important issue, and if you're interested in my half-year ago lecture, please go to SIC Group at the Institute for Democracy and Development YouTube, and you can see all recording of this lecture. So it's also some information about who travel in Europe. I think it's not so important. Second question, which is important, do you travel to Ukraine from that period when you came to country? So 44% not travel to Ukraine. I think it's connect also with resources which needed to travel back and forward. But also 46% of people go to Ukraine several times. So here we haven't information about why people travel, but my guess is that it's also part of this population taking responsibility of their business and family in Ukraine. So that's why they need travel. And here researchers also give information that mostly people who not travel because it's unsafe in their region. Also, as you can see that people from Western Europe, which like more wealthy part of Europe, travel more often to Ukraine than people from Eastern Europe. Less often. So people from Western Europe less often travel to Ukraine than people from Eastern Europe. One more time, I think that people who now live in Eastern Europe, people who before also was in Eastern Europe or work in Eastern Europe. Also interesting question is it's question of adaptation and about relationship with local communities. So as we can see, people, when researchers ask people how local people understand you and what is your relationship with local people. So they said that it's neutral or it's a good relationship. So people understand Ukrainians good and people very kind to them. So it's also very important, society and like integration of Ukrainians to community. But then we will also understand is this kind relationship is way to integration of Ukrainian or it's just like a type of compatibility there. So in second chapter, we can see comparisons between Ukraine and country where people came as refugees. So very interesting point for me as person who owns business. It's a level of opportunity of hold your own business. So as you can see, it's like minus and plus. People see that -3 it's better to have business in Europe, and 3 it's better for them have business in Ukraine. So as you can see, for people who was businessmen, it's better to have business in Ukraine, and also people see equal opportunities to be successful in Europe and in Ukraine. One more time, also we see that if we said about level of income, it's the last point. Mostly people see that level of income and social benefits are obviously better in Europe than in Ukraine, and also they said that it's better about compatibility of life and about freedoms and rights in Europe. So as you can see, businessmen understand system in Ukraine, but about compatibility and level of income and social issues, they see it better in Europe, which is pretty important issue for integration. It's also interesting to compare level of some bank relationship, also like government services. So as we can see, people said that government services online better in Ukraine, and financial and bank system work better in Ukraine, and medical services more affordable, more accessible in Ukraine. So I guess that it's also connect with language, because obviously, if we said about medical issues, obviously in Ukraine it's quite different system. Then you can go to doctor and to pay directly or go to private clinic. And I guess that for Muslim respondents, just this system, it's not understandable. That's why they said that in Ukraine it's better. So it's more what you used to. In the United States, I see the same issues. And here are also some points that Ukrainians think that restaurants and cafes better in Ukraine. But one more time, it's all not about cafe and restaurant, it's all about behavior. So people used to live in Ukrainian society, which quite different. It's still moving for democracy development, it's still moving for fighting this corruption, and that's why procedures is very different. But as you can see on these slides, people can't use to European or American system. So that's why they said that it's better in Ukraine. Obviously, it's not better bank services in Ukraine, because on some year we have complex bank falling of in Ukraine, and people lose all their deposits. But like one more time, like the European system, it's not understandable. So I guess that's why people have give this result. So if we moving forward, also it's different understanding of quality of roads, of education from different groups, but like my conclusion, I already present to you. And also interesting point is factor about corruption, because after the last corruption scandal and also changing of Ministry of Defense, it's very important issue which pretty important to discuss with you as international audience and with Ukrainian audience. So as you can see, if we ask respondents about level of corruption, totally majority, so it's 52 plus 21 plus 10, so totally majority said that higher level of corruption in Ukraine. So as you can see, corruption is still the basic problem why people don't want to live in Ukraine, and how they understand. You see, it's tremendous big number of people who said that yes, like in Ukraine, it's high level of corruption. But they also said that in Europe it's higher level of bureaucracy. I think that here people bureaucracy understand this bad issue. It's a big question for European Union, but it's not stem of our lecture. But they also said that it's higher taxes. One more time, taxes really not higher. I guess that just part of people who respondents don't fairly pay all taxes in Ukraine. But one more time, here the main issue that corruption is still the main problem, and why people also want to live in Europe but not in Ukraine because of level of corruption. It's pretty important to understand for Ukrainian government and for all international audience. And here we see that mostly that 80% of people said that corruption is higher in Ukraine, and totally they understand that as a problem. Also we can see like people who think about corruption more. So people who live in Western Europe, which like pretty bureaucratic and pretty democracy countries, understand that corruption in Ukraine is more, and I think it's also important to see. So, the main issue which I analyze in, dynamics is also understanding, do people ready to come back or no? We already talked about that in my lecture for Marshall's University, but one more time, let's see. As you can see on the question, we want to live full time to be fully resident of other country, not in Ukraine. We can see that it depends, So yes, it's blue color, and no, it's white color. So it's people who come to Europe before full-scale invasion, and also the next is people who came after invasion. So as you can see, people who came after invasion, so who saw invasion, mostly think that they not want to live full time, and people who came before invasion, they thinking about staying in Europe also in bigger percentage. I guess that these people who came before invasion is people also who worked before in Europe, and who also in our previous research, in our previous analyzing, want to live in Europe even before, because they haven't economical opportunities in Ukraine. So it's also very interesting point to analyze. Also why they want to live in Europe. As you can see, it's opportunity of being successful, opportunity of have their own business, opportunity to find a job, because unemployment in Ukraine is still big, economical freedom, and importance of living compatible and higher level of income for sure. So second point, it's about some services in country, and third point, it's about medical issues and quality of medical support. And third issue, it's public transportation, quality of roads, and freedoms and rights. So it's very, very weird that freedom and rights is not the first factor, but still. It's all matrix of components why people came to Europe. Also we see that people who have lower income in Ukraine, it's like they better live in Ukraine, so it's also interesting. For people with higher level of income, it's better to live in Europe. Also, it's a big correlation between people who believe in our victory and who are not. Also for people who don't want to live in Europe, it's people who don't know language. And some people said about some discrimination from locals. And also if we are talking about age, people, women and men who like middle age, don't want to come back to Ukraine, and people who want to come back, it's older women who can't reconstruct the social community. Also, people who want to come back to Ukraine, it's people who don't find work in Europe, and obviously people who want to work in Europe. Also people, it's very important to understand that people from Western and Southern Europe want to live in this part of Europe, also they see that it's a better climate for them to live. So one more time, it's very important how many people work in Europe. 49% of people who was respondents now work in Europe. And people who came before full-scale invasion, it's 74%. So one more time, my theory is that people who came before, they came because they already worked before in Europe, and now they have full opportunities to have legal right to do that. It's 74%. And men's more like work in Europe, I guess, because women come with kids and it's a lot of paperwork and working with kids. So as we can see, Ukrainians quite pretty adaptable in Europe, and they have some problems, as we see here, because they don't know language. So 73% of people can't find job because they don't know language in that country of Europe. So it's still the main problem. Other like problem that for Ukrainians, it's white collar jobs, and people from this education can't find like normal job. But what we can see, but people learning language, and as you can see, more and more people learning that language. So we can see that if full-scale invasion will be more and more years, around the same percentage, like around 50% of people thinking about staying in Europe or in other countries where they as refugees. And obviously it's can be tremendous minus for Ukrainian economy, because mostly people who won't stay, it's young people who can work. So if you want to support the Institute for Democracy and Development, please donate to our project or be sponsor of our project. We have non-profits in Ukraine and in the United States, and also we'll be ready to cooperate with you from SIC Group on analytical issues. Take care and have a good day.